The top cop who put his badge on the line for justice.
The gripping story of Deputy Sheriff Poppa. He was a top cop who did the right thing and paid dearly for it.
You know the name Doug Poppa? Yes, I do. God bless Doug Poppa, an honest cop.
He was a man of integrity. His testimony last summer freed an innocent man from jail who had already been convicted of shooting his ex-wife. But Poppa's going public cost him his job as an undercover cop.
I was elated, of course, but then as he testified, I was somewhat concerned for him, because I knew that they were probably going to crucify that man.
Poppa was targeted for a 10-day suspension by his own department for defying superiors and talking to the media. This Brooklyn-born street fighter wouldn't back down.
Sometimes the truth has a price. That may be the lesson of a Virginia police officer who says, in trying to do the right thing, he ended up paying for it.
The message you're sending is, see, we did it, Doug. You don't come out, you don't buck the system. No matter what the reason is, you just can basically keep your mouth shut. But if I wouldn't do it all over again, I would take the badge and I would leave it on somebody's desk and get out of place work. Because the day I can't tell the truth because somebody's pressuring me, and the day the system doesn't want me to tell the truth because somebody's pressuring me, is the day I leave the badge on the desk and walk away.
Poppa was fired for insubordination. One man who confronted truth and consequences.
How would you feel, ladies and gentlemen, if your mother was being murdered, stabbed 68 times, while the cops were standing outside her door and didn't go in to try to save her life? They wanted to go in, but their sergeant told them to stand down and wait for SWAT. And prior to SWAT arrival, her son, who killed her, came out with the two knives, and they went in. The cops who wanted to go in and saw her name. Her name, I'm talking about her. You know the name Joe Lombardo. You know the name Kevin McMahill, if you follow me. But do you know the name of Paula Prado Zuniga? Zuniga. Because apparently the local Las Vegas media could care less about this. I broke this story back in December, and I haven't seen anybody pick this story up, okay? 74-year-old woman stabbed reportedly 68 times, while Metro police officers stood outside her door, heard her screams as she's being killed, wanted to go in. They were stacked up ready to go in and were told to stand down by their sergeant, wait for SWAT. And SWAT arrived after the son came out, okay, with the knives in his hand. They admonished all the officers during the internal investigation. Got somebody that told me that's familiar with the investigation. All those officers admonished to keep their mouth shut. In other words, they got to keep the cover-up going. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Doug Poppa podcast from Las Vegas, Nevada, for Thursday, June 1st, 2023. This is episode 146. Okay, I just played a little episodes there so you get an idea of what I'm talking about in this episode here. This is an update. It's going to be a short podcast. You all know, ladies and gentlemen, back in December 11, 2022, you saw up on the screen for my audio podcast people, you couldn't see some of the slides, but basically the slides encompassed December 11, 2022, I broke the cover-up involving Paula Prado Zuniga, 74-year-old Las Vegas resident, who was stabbed to death inside her apartment as Las Vegas Metro police officers were stacked up at her door, heard her screams as she was being killed, wanted to go in, and were told to stand down by the sergeant and wait for SWAT. And you saw in that little clip that I just played, prior to SWAT arriving, her son, who allegedly killed her, came out with the 2 knives in his hand, and then the cops who wanted to go in to save her life went in and saw her laying on the ground. She died. Ladies and gentlemen, I got an update. It's exclusive to the Doug Poppa podcast. And for my audio podcast people, this is exclusive also to the Doug Poppa podcast. You couldn't see the audio podcast people, not be able to see some of the stuff that was going up on the screen without any narration. So for their sake, I had some slides up on the screen, and I received, they were excerpts from the Clark County Coroner's Office report that I obtained. And these are excerpts that I put up on the screen, and I had the shots up there, and it said evidence of traumatic injury. And there are at least 69 separate sharp force injuries of the body. The sequence of their descriptions is not intended to imply sequence or severity of injuries. That's all I'm going to say on that. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday, which was Wednesday, May 31st, 2023, the family, I've been in contact with the family, the Bonilla Prado family, for some time. And I was advised by them that they had retained counsel in this case. And for about a week or so, I've been trying to reach out to the attorney. Finally made contact with him today. And let me get some of this stuff on the screen here. The attorney is Ryan Alexander. He's a Las Vegas attorney, owns a law firm, and he's been retained by the family, as the family told me. I reached out to him today, and this is what he told me. He said, yes, I was retained to represent the estate of Paula Prado Zuniga, and he also advised me that he sent a letter of representation to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And he also said that yesterday, just turned midnight, on Wednesday, May 31st, he filed estate opening documents in the 8th Judicial District Court in Nevada. And the case number is P23-116-772. E is in Edward. And I have a document on the screen there. That is what I obtained off a little while ago off the court record site, so you could see that he filed this ex parte petition. I'm not going to get into what that means, but he's been retained by the family for representation in the estate of Paula Prado Zuniga. Ladies and gentlemen, when I mentioned in that little clip, it came from the podcast I did the other day, and I said, you all know the names of Joe Lombardo and Sheriff Kevin McMahon, who is the sheriff now. This cover-up, ladies and gentlemen, I said this on several podcasts after I published the expose in December, and I'll have the description section and the link in the description section of this podcast. The reason why I mentioned it was Joe Lombardo in September, when this incident happened, the cover-up started, he was the sheriff of Clark County, Nevada, and he was running the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. And you all know he won the election last year, and he's now the governor of Nevada. And the new sheriff, who you know I'm not a fan of, and I wasn't a fan of Lombardo either because of all the cover-ups they've done and stuff over the years, him and both McMahill. Kevin McMahill's now the sheriff, and the cover-up that started under Sheriff Joe Lombardo, who's now the governor, when Kevin McMahill took office in January, he's continued the cover-up. In other words, they didn't want this getting out. In the description section, ladies and gentlemen, of these podcasts, when I do them, you need to look at them because a lot of people ask me questions about different things and updates. And anytime I get an update, as is the case in episode 131 in December, you'll see updates, things that I've done, requested records for Metro. They told me I wasn't going to get them because it's an open murder investigation. And anything that my sources tell me, I put in the description section of all these podcasts that I do because it's impossible to do podcast every second, every minute, every hour, every time you're getting updates. So look in the description section of these podcasts, and you will see the updates that I get when I put them in, including the last couple of podcasts that I did, reference to the this thing that came down from the sky allegedly, and talking to the family. And I got to apologize for episode 144 because I do not know what happened with that audio. So I replayed the interview with that witness in that event in 145, and it was clear it was the same audio. I don't know what happened, but I'm sorry because I got a lot of complaints from people saying we couldn't understand it. Some people did. So anyway, it's out there, and it was also on the audio podcast, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and that audio was clear. Now, let's get back to Ms. Zuniga. So we now have the attorney representing the family. And ladies and gentlemen, I've been in contact, like I said, with the family. And about a week ago, they sent me this, okay? And it was a letter. And I can't say everything in it because it's pertinent to some of the stuff that happened that I think the attorney's looking into. So I'm not going to mention that. But these are some excerpts. And they said, to hear officers were traumatized after the events of that day is not surprising, considering the devastation the entire family is still trying to cope with. Thank you for your time. This is very personal and important. It takes people like you to address the hard truths. Many can't or don't. We owe you immense gratitude. Respectfully, the Bonilla/Prado family. And to them, I told them they owe me absolutely nothing. Who owes them is now Governor Lombardo, and current Sheriff Kevin McMahill owes them an explanation why this was covered up and kept from the press. And like I say all the time, you keep something from the press, you keeping it from the public. And and another thing, ladies and gentlemen, the other cover-up that I exposed many of them, but next month, still on the schedule, is the trial for Antoine Perkins. That was the other Metro cover-up that I exposed, where in 2019, you had the 12-year-old girl who was kidnapped and raped because of the incompetence and negligence of the sexual assault detectives and the supervisor in 2018. And I'll have those descriptions and the links in this episode also. And the suspect in those two cases, Antoine Perkins, is scheduled right now for next month. And again, these cases are never followed up, like I said, by the Las Vegas media. And, why, I don't know. So in a nutshell, heard it here first, Ryan Alexander, Las Vegas attorney, has been retained by the estate of Paula Prado Zuniga, and he sent a letter of representation to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a short podcast. I got a lot of updates to do. I was just apprised of another cover-up, something that was kept from the public also, just a couple days ago. That happened, it happened some time ago under Sheriff Lombardo and Kevin McMahill's reign when he was the undersheriff. So I got to get all these things together because there's just so much stuff coming in. And, sometimes I lose my mind on all this stuff. It's some of it's pretty disheartening. Ladies and gentlemen, follow me on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, the Doug Poppa Podcast, if you're not subscribed. It's free. Follow me on Twitter at Doug Poppa #1, because when I get updates and breaking news and they put out and stuff coming in from my police sources and other sources, I put it out on Twitter right away. And like I said the other day, it comes out the way I get it. Sometimes it's raw, it's unfiltered, and things need to be changed. I update it, so go over there. If you can support my independent investigative journalism, it's paypal.me/Doug Poppa, because I don't get paid for doing these podcasts, and it costs money that comes out of my own pocket for doing research and traveling and interviewing people. So if you can help, I know times are hard. If you can't, no big deal. I do this, ladies and gentlemen, because, and frankly, nobody else is doing these investigations in Las Vegas. So I do them. And if you want to contact me, serious inquiries only. Don't send me any BS because I'm not going to listen to it. It's Doug Poppa Podcast at gmail.com. And I don't have any scripts anymore when I do these things. I just got my notes. So I'm just going to go over and make sure that I covered everything that I wanted in this podcast. And it's about the update on the Paula Prado Zuniga murder. And all this information is exclusive to the Doug Poppa Podcast. I got everything out that I wanted to get in. And let me get, ladies and gentlemen, as you saw at the opening, that is the late Paula Prado Zuniga, 74 years old, allegedly killed by her son, stabbed 68 times reportedly, and you saw the excerpt I got from the coroner's office where it says at least 69 times, and very troubling. The whole thing is troubling. And then on top of it, you got the sheriff at the time, Lombardo, covering this thing up because they couldn't let it get out, and I got it out because they didn't want the public to know that the officers possibly could have saved her life. They wanted to go in, were told to stand down. So that's in the legal realm right now. Any more updates I get on this, I'll keep you apprised. And we'll see you on the next episode. Got a lot of stuff coming out. Thanks for listening, and you all have a good morning.
This lawman sacrificed his badge for justice.
Poppa knew a secret that could free a man wrongfully imprisoned for shooting his ex-wife. But when Poppa stepped forward, he was cut down by his own police department.
All this stuff's going in my head. Should I call up to the defense attorney? Okay? And I knew if I did that, holy hell would break loose.
Deputy Sheriff Doug Poppa used to be one of the top cops in rural Loudoun County, Virginia. Deputy Poppa feels he's been busted himself. He lost his job as a narcotics investigator, he says, when he told an ugly truth about a 4-year-old crime. The truth about how his own department and the local prosecutor allegedly ignored key evidence and may have sent an innocent man to jail.
I testified, and everything changes.
What Deputy Poppa testified about was an attempted murder in 1987.
They deliberately withheld evidence that should have been given to my defense attorneys.
Bill Birch is the prosecutor Deputy Poppa accused of ignoring the evidence.
He says, I told the prosecutor, I told Mr. Birch that this woman said, I'm going to shoot myself if need be, and I'm going to make it look like my husband did it just to ruin his life. Did he say that to you?
No, he did not.
But this November, the court believed Doug Poppa.
Oh my goodness, is this the reception committee?
And on Valentine's Day, William Carter was released on a $50,000 bond and given a new trial.
This man usually puts people on trial in this courthouse, but in a rare turn of events, the Loudoun County Commonwealth Attorney was called to the witness stand. William Birch was asked to respond to allegations that he pressured a witness to lie in earlier court proceedings.
No, sir.
A woman who lived at the Carter mansion the night Carol Vandergrift Carter was shot 5 years ago testified that the prosecutor coached her to withhold testimony about the gun involved.
I certainly did tell him about that it was a .38.
I don't recall her saying anything about the gun, a .38 caliber, anything like that.
He's lying to cover his tracks on the last trial.
The high price one cop is paying for telling the truth.
After serving more than 4 years behind bars, Carter was on the edge of his seat when the verdict was read today.
We, the jury, on each's joint, find the defendant William Douglas Carter not guilty.
After he audibly thanked the jury, Douglas Carter could not contain himself. The tears flowed.
I came out and testified in November of 1991 at the habeas corpus hearing, and again in January. I was suspended for 10 days without pay, and I ended up being fired after 12 years in this department.